So the first thing I said was, know your purpose. Remember that our ultimate purpose isn't our career, it isn't our money, it isn't our family even, it isn't, fitting into a size whatever, it isn't looking a certain way. It's ultimately to enslave ourselves to God and therefore become free. That's our ultimate purpose. And that makes everything else make sense and fall into place. But the other thing we have to do is stop being so negative in the way we understand our lives and the way we understand what Allah is doing in our lives. When a person has a positive opinion of Allah, it changes completely the way we respond to everything that happens. Remember the example of the mother driving, right? You were calm and you were at peace even when you never understood. Even if there were bumps in the road, you're not panicking because you trust the driver. And so what we have to do is go back to trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to know that actually Allah is on our side. It's not us against God. You can't take on God. We have to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for us. There's a difference between thinking that your life is happening to you versus your life is happening for you. The things in your life, the things that happen in your life are actually happening for you. Even when you don't understand them, even when they seem bad, they seem negative, I promise you to that child that shot seemed really bad. It seemed really negative, but it was actually saving the child's life. And this is exactly what happens in our life. Sometimes we don't get what we want. Raise your hand if you always get what you want. Shockingly, no one's raising their hand because that's not the way it works, right? We don't always get what we want. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us what we need. And there's a difference. There's a difference between getting what I want and getting what I need, right? We hope that sometimes they're the same thing, but not always. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I want to talk about some practical steps. So this is theoretical. I touched upon one practical thing, but I want to go back and go a little deeper. I mentioned that we are told to pray not once, not twice, but 5 times a day, and throughout the day. This is a prescription given to us by our Creator in order to remind us of our purpose while we're living our life. See, our religion, our deen, it's not the type of deen where you just, you go off into a cave in order to be spiritual, right? You're not only spiritual on Fridays. You're not only spiritual in Ramadan. Spirituality in Islam is something we do while we're at work, while we are married and have children, while we are even enjoying ourselves. Can I tell you something deep? The Prophet ﷺ said that even in the intimacy between husband and wife is an act of worship. It's a charity. Like, whoa. The Prophet ﷺ said this to his companions and they were like, how is that? But this is something this is enjoyment. How can that be a sadaqah? Sadaqah. Sadaqah, that thing, charity, like an act of worship. And the Prophet ﷺ said, because if you did it outside of marriage, would it not be a sin? And so to do it within marriage is actually that's actually a good deed. And so you see that Islam isn't about being spiritual by leaving our life. It's about finding spirituality inside of our life. Inside of our life. Inside of our everyday mundane, right? You're gonna still have to go to work.